Bills and KC. My sources said, well, something definitely gonna happen tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow.
That's for D-Hop, I do believe,
Yeah.
if we are reading the room right.
With Aaron Rodgers getting traded officially the other day and Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the Baltimore Ravens a few weeks back, there was only one domino that was left to fall in this NFL offseason, unless if I am forgetting something, which if I am, let me know in the comment section down below. And that's, what is the future of DeAndre Hopkins going to be? Before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. We're running cash giveaways on my Twitter account for any of my followers that turn on my notifications on Twitter. And now that we get all that out of the way, some of the green slips you guys have been sending me is crazy. Like $1,250 off of a $250 slip, or $1,500 off of a $150 power play. We've been making bank off of our basketball picks, bro. March Madness was a huge success, and believe me, we're about to ramp it up for the NBA playoffs. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use my promo code Mikerophone, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100 instantly. After that, just follow me on Instagram. I post all of my picks onto my Instagram story for free, and we can start making money off of these picks together. Mike check 1212. What's going on, everybody? Guys, if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan, I'm really sorry to break it to you, but your team is by far the biggest dumpster fire in the NFL, and no one could have even seen this coming a year ago. I mean, there were signs, don't get me wrong, with Kyler Murray scrubbing his Instagram account, trying to get a contract extension, but the Arizona Cardinals actually had a pretty good season 2 years ago. I mean, at least the start to their season was pretty good. The end of their season was an unmitigated disaster that ended up crashing and burning and resulted in Kyler Murray getting decimated by the eventual Super Bowl champion LA Rams in the playoffs. There were questions about Kyler Murray's leadership at this point, but regardless, the Arizona Cardinals decided to extend him. And to be honest, I praise them for this, because it's not like Kyler Murray showed me that he's a bad player at all whatsoever. It was clear that eventually he'd need to get extended, so you might as well just get it done sooner rather than later so you wouldn't have to overpay him down the line. Man, I didn't think I'd be wrong about this one. It could be because of Kyler Murray, it could be a symptom of other things, but every single piece of the Arizona Cardinals currently is in shambles. Kyler Murray would tear his ACL, Cliff Kingsbury would get fired, Budda Baker demanded a trade, JJ Watt retired, Zach Allen left in free agency, Byron Murphy left in free agency, Zach Ertz is recovering from a torn ACL, and the owner of the Arizona Cardinals recently got caught cheating. Typically, that's not something that we make its own standalone video on, but it's definitely a nice cherry on top of the cake that is the Arizona Cardinals currently. And if you go back to last offseason, the Kyler Murray situation was very unfortunate, but I could understand why they made the decision they did. And they even traded for Marquise Hollywood Brown, who was supposed to form a nice tandem with his buddy from college, Kyler Murray, but that didn't end up working out either. Maybe this year, with DeAndre Hopkins fully out of the picture, things would be different. Maybe after hiring Jonathan Gannon, who had a very awkward handshake with Budda Baker, which is my secret theory as to why he demanded a trade to begin with, is what this team needs to get back on top? I don't necessarily know. My favorite story about the Arizona Cardinals recently, though, is the story of Nick Bosa warning Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim about not selecting him #1 overall. Check this out.
We went to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and had dinner with Nick Bosa. I'll never forget, he puts his arm around me and Cliff Kingsbury, both of us, in basically a headlock.
And right when you think it can't get any more savage, look at how it ends.
You guys are probably going to end up taking that little quarterback. And if you do, he looked over at me and said, Steve, I will haunt you for the rest of your career.
Is this funny? Because I can imagine Nick Bosa putting his arms around the shoulders of Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury and doing that in his like very relaxed voice, but I digress. The Arizona Cardinals clearly were in the market to trade DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I want you guys to know that DeAndre Hopkins isn't your typical wide receiver that's on the market. I don't want you to think that he demands an A.J. Brown type return like the Tennessee Titans got when they traded A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. I will admit, I think the Arizona Cardinals overpaid to trade trade for Hollywood Brown, but that was also during the summer of a very inflated wide receiver market. Regardless, it seems like it was a poor investment trading for Hollywood Brown, at least the compensation that was given up to get Hollywood Brown. But DeAndre Hopkins' best years are clearly behind him at this point. He's still a fantastic football player, but the realm of what his value is imagine Brandon Cooks or Amari Cooper, but significantly more talented. That's the best way I could explain it. So as a result, you shouldn't expect a first round pick to be dealt for DeAndre Hopkins, even though, in my opinion, he's still a top 5 receiver in the NFL. If you don't agree with that, we could both agree that he's at the very minimum a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And with that being said, the speculation started. First, we had Von Miller, who claims that every single player is going to the Buffalo Bills. I mean, Von Miller is literally what every Dallas Cowboys fan is, but for the Buffalo Bills. Check this out.
It'd be great. It'd be great to have great players on your team, especially, my boys. DeAndre Hopkins, it just means a little bit more when your guys have opportunity to play for, the team that you're on, man. It's not like, I'm trying to, we got a great team. And you add Gabe Davis and DeAndre Hopkins on that list, man, that'll put us over the top. So he knows. And he knows we want to be there, and we know he wants to be a Buffalo Bill.
And then you have this hilarious video of DeAndre Hopkins implying where he would like to play. And some of the teams that you would think would be contenders were ruled out. I mean, you guys remember when this happened with Bill Belichick, right?
We only have to play you every 4 years, man.
Love you, man.
You too. You too.
Look at who he implied that he wanted to play with.
I'm going to name some destinations. I want your body language or your facial expression to determine, like, ooh, would I like that spot if the Cardinals want to trade you? First destination, we're going to go with the New England Patriots. All right? Second destination, we're going to go with the Buffalo Bills. Third destination, we're going to go with the New York Jets. Last destination, we're gonna go with the Kansas City Chiefs. Well,
now, if that wasn't enough to indicate how much speculation there was in regards to DeAndre Hopkins' future, what about this one particular tweet from Lamar Jackson with him posting a smiley emoji and then posting a gif of SpongeBob SquarePants saying, "You love Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward?" Which, by the way, this could allude to many things. I thought it could potentially mean that he's getting traded to the 49ers. There's so much things you could speculate on based off of these types of tweets, so I don't really read too much into them. But I will acknowledge the fact that Lamar Jackson reportedly told the Baltimore Ravens that he wants to play with both Odell Beckham Jr. and DeAndre Hopkins. And I don't think there's a better way to figure out whether or not Lamar Jackson could be your quarterback for the future than by surrounding him with two of the best wide receivers of the past decade. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I personally thought that if DeAndre Hopkins was going to get traded, it was going to occur right before the NFL draft or during the NFL draft. And there were rumors throughout the NFL draft that the Tennessee Titans were interested in trading up with the Arizona Cardinals from number 11 to number 3, and it would involve DeAndre Hopkins somehow, some way, which to me never made any sense, because in order to execute such a trade, you'd have to give up a player of tremendous value on your side as well. The number 3 pick, jumping up from number 11 to number 3, is a huge jump. The San Francisco 49ers gave up 2 first-round picks in order to swap picks with the Miami Dolphins for the 2021 NFL draft. So it didn't really make sense for the Arizona Cardinals to package the number 3 pick and DeAndre Hopkins just so they could trade down with the Tennessee Titans. Unless if maybe as a result an additional first round pick was thrown in. I don't know the draft chart off the top of my head, especially once the draft has concluded. But here's where it got interesting. The Arizona Cardinals general manager said right before the NFL draft that a DeAndre Hopkins trade was unlikely. Watch.
Osborne, the Cardinals general manager, answered that question last night, said he did not envision Hopkins getting traded during the draft. I would echo that. I would say there's too many moving pieces to get a deal done during the draft. Hopkins likely would have to adjust his salary to facilitate it.
So this is really significant because I thought he was on the table for potentially a first round pick. I feel like that's what the Cardinals wanted. They wanted to somehow, some way part with DeAndre Hopkins and get a first round pick or a second round pick in return, which is tremendous value considering DeAndre Hopkins' age. Again, whenever you have a player that is about to turn 31 years old, that is coming off of some injury plagued seasons, that clearly is still really remarkable, remarkable, but obviously his best ball might be behind him. In this case, that's the situation with DeAndre Hopkins. Then typically what you could expect is that player gets shipped for maybe a third or a fourth round pick. And since we're talking about DeAndre Hopkins here, and whenever he's been on the field, he's been fantastic, you might be able to ship him for a second round pick. I guess the best example I could give you here in this particular instance is when Julio Jones was traded from the Atlanta Falcons to the Tennessee Titans. The situation is very similar to the one we're in now. The Atlanta Falcons clearly saw that Julio Jones's best years were behind him. Maybe there was something left in the tank. The Tennessee Titans thought it would be cute to pair Julio Jones with AJ Brown. Julio Jones was coming off of a season where he only played 9 games for the Falcons in his final season. In those 9 games, he still was able to get like 700 receiving yards. If you look at DeAndre Hopkins, it's like the same thing here, only the season before, he also wasn't able to complete a full season. In 2021, he played in 10 games, 572 receiving yards. And then last year, he played in 9 games. He was able to get 717 receiving yards. In the case of Julio Jones, he was coming off of a season where he was 31 years old. In the case of DeAndre Hopkins, he's going into a season where he's 31 years old. So obviously, the Arizona Cardinals are trying to get a similar return, or were trying to get a similar return as what the Atlanta Falcons got for Julio Jones, which was a second round pick and a fourth round pick in return for Julio Jones and a 6th round pick. That didn't end up happening. So as a result, things are a little interesting now. This is the part of free agency where I'm personally really excited about, because what's the fate of Ezekiel Elliott going to be? What's the fate of DeAndre Hopkins going to be? What about all the other free agents that still are waiting for a contract? There's still a lot to go. So what's going to happen with DeAndre Hopkins? What team would be interested in him? There's clearly a logjam at the wide receiver position for the Arizona Cardinals, and clearly DeAndre Hopkins wants to spend his final years on a team that is competing. Well, there's one thing we neglected to mention, and it's so funny because this was just an assumption originally. We thought, hey, Budda Baker wants to be traded because of this weird handshake he got from Jonathan Gannon. Hey, Michael Bidwell was caught cheating, and Kyler Murray had a horrific season. And oh my God, look at the Arizona Cardinals' new uniforms. They're hideous. Clearly, this team is headed for a rebuild. So obviously, they're trading DeAndre Hopkins. But that's the thing. In our minds, it made a lot of sense for the Cardinals to trade DeAndre Hopkins. But DeAndre Hopkins took some time to tell us that that was never his decision. As a matter of fact, he posted it onto his Instagram. Watch.
I see everybody tell me to stay. Who said I want to go? Who said I wanted to leave? I'm out here working, baby. What's up?
So this is really significant in the sense that DeAndre Hopkins is getting ready to train in Phoenix, Arizona. It doesn't seem like he's in any hurry to leave. And to be honest, he never really demanded a trade. It wasn't like he was upset at the Arizona Cardinals and he demanded a trade. It was one of those things where we all believed it was a foregone conclusion based upon where the Cardinals were at and where DeAndre Hopkins is at. And it's something that he wouldn't be upset about. And it made a lot of sense in our minds. But now, what team would trade for DeAndre Hopkins at this point? That's an interesting question. At the same time, what would his value be? Because now, if you do want to trade him for picks, you'd be trading him for picks in next year's NFL draft, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. It's just whenever you trade for a player like DeAndre Hopkins, you typically would do it before the NFL draft. So it looks like there's a really good chance that DeAndre Hopkins might be an Arizona Cardinal next season. It wouldn't surprise me if he got traded. At the same time, it's looking like he's making peace with the reality that he might be on his existing team next year. If he is that a failure on the Arizona Cardinals? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.